Hello family, it's Marie Mott and we're back with episode 2 of Free Unjolee Moore. And I'm here with Mama Tamara, who's going to give us a perspective on why we should overturn the conviction of a life sentence where this young man has been sitting in prison for 8 years for a crime he did not commit. The case involves official misconduct as well as police brutality and torture at the hands of the Chattanooga Police Department, confirmed by its internal affairs unit. And it's very important for us to get the explanation from Ms. Tamara, as well as insight on how that correlates with Chattanooga history. So thank you for joining us, Mama Tamara. As we learned in the last video, Mr. Moore's wrongful conviction is a product of both prosecutorial misconduct and police misconduct. What can you tell us about the history of policing in Chattanooga and how it relates to the fight to prove Unjolee Moore innocent?
I think we should review three things, and the first one being the Ed Johnson case. Historically, Ed Johnson was hung in Chattanooga after a Supreme Court ruling that he did not have a fair trial. And to my knowledge, that's the first case, or maybe even the only case, where in Chattanooga, Tennessee, or in the country, where a black man is said to have, because of the color of his skin, could not receive a free trial. And that was a Supreme Court ruling. So I think that historically set the atmosphere or the attitude that we even know today about the justice system here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So that's the first case, and people are not familiar with that case. It's a good read. They should read it and research it. It's a good case to review, to understand the underlying atmosphere here. The second thing is the Wadie Suttles case, which is the case which really formed CCJ, which is Concerned Citizens for Justice. Wadie Suttles was a black man picked up by the police, killed he was beat in the jail cells and died in the hospital. And his daughter, Maxine Cousins, and a friend of hers, Annie Thomas, formed the organization Concerned Citizens for Justice. So to this day, we still don't have justice for Wadie Suttles. So the judicial system, the system of not getting a fair trial is not new to Unjolee Moore's case. It's not new to this time. What we hope with the Unjolee case, Mr. Moore's case, is that the judicial system, as well as the police department, is seeing what it is. It's unfair. And there's no way in this city that a black person can get a fair trial or even a fair investigation. So what we need to do is to speak out now based on that history and change some of the history.
So the internal affairs of the CPD ruled that Police Captain Edwin McPherson was guilty of untruthfulness and knowingly interfered with the investigation that led to Mr. Moore's conviction. How is it possible for a police captain like Edwin McPherson, whose niece was involved in the case, and he was on the phone with her before, during, and after the murder, how is it possible for internal affairs to find him guilty of misconduct but do nothing?
Well, historically, there are police officers in Chattanooga who have been even charged, convicted of, and had to pay fines for their behavior. But it didn't stop the Chattanooga Police Force from having these officers still on their staff. And I think in the police force, Chattanooga, around the country, we've seen it, you know. We've seen it in Florida, we've seen it in Minnesota, we've seen it in Ohio, we've seen it in New York, where police officers are protected for this kind of behavior that is not morally and ethically correct, and definitely not legally. But we're not willing to say anything, or we're not willing to speak out. And that's what has been happening, I think, in the last 10 years. People are now starting to speak up and say this is not right. In saying that, Marie, how many police officers have been convicted of wrongful death?
Not many that I know of. Certainly, as we see from the history here, no one in the city of Chattanooga. And I will probably take it a step further to say that not only are they not fired or convicted, but often they get rewarded for brutalizing and murdering citizens, and in particular, those of color. As we know, he became Sergeant McPherson. He got a promotion after all of this happened, and he almost had the opportunity of becoming our police chief.
Like you say, seem to be rewarded. Their careers gone, where families have lost,
Torn apart,
and die with the pain of no justice. No justice.
One of the only pieces of evidence that's being used against Mr. Moore is an alleged recording of a confession. However, the recording is incomplete and inconsistent. Mr. Moore claims to have been beaten and tortured during the confession by CPD investigator Michael Wanger, saying that he forced Unjolee to confess to the murder. Have you observed any prior patterns of police violence or intimidation in Chattanooga that may give us insight as to the false confession being a product of the Chattanooga Police Department?
I mean, Michael Wangler has history of police violence in the Tatum and Johnson cases that we know of that involve police brutality. Mm-hmm. He historically has been known for how he treats black people in our communities.
It sounds like we have a whole system of police corruption, violence, and oppression here in Chattanooga that continue to be protected by the Internal Affairs Unit. What do you believe can be done to fight to get Unjolee free? And how can the community stand behind CCJ to ensure that that happens?
I think we have to have the community to be seen and to speak out. Unjolee Moore's case comes up August the 13th, and Judge Poole's court. And we need people to turn out. We need people to come and speak out just by being present. Mm-hmm. Your presence, solidarity speaks a lot. And what I guess, Marie, the thing that is so important to CCJ, that today is Unjolee, tomorrow is your son, your daughter, and who do you want to speak out, up and out for them? You know, who's going to be there for you? Because it's so easy to sit back and accept this because it does not directly impact me. Sooner or later, it will impact you. because there's not fewer cases. There are more cases of police brutality. There are more cases of African Americans in the penal system. It's not going away until we say no. And we say no by being there. We say no. The judges in these courts are elected officials.
Yes.
The circuit courts and the criminal courts have clerks who are in elected positions. We need to speak up and speak out. And if we don't, this young man will sit in jail the rest of his life for something he didn't do. For me, I can't live with that. You know, knowing this case and not being there August the 13th. I couldn't sleep at night. I couldn't rest knowing that I could have done one thing. I could have came and spent 2 hours in the courtroom and didn't do it. I couldn't do it. Please come out August the 13th at 9 o'clock. Come a little bit early. Come at 8:30 and be in Judge Poole's court for this case.
We want to thank you guys for tuning in. Please like the subscribe button. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook as well at Concerned Citizens for Justice. Remember that silence is complicity. It may not be you today, but it well could be you tomorrow. And all we're asking is that you stand in solidarity for what is right. Nobody deserves to rot in prison for a crime in which they did not commit. Thank you so much.